Let me start from the beginning. 3 months ago, I took a job as an overnight polysomnographic technologist, a sleep tech. It's not as fancy as it sounds. I work for a private research firm, one of those places with a sleek, minimalist logo and big funding. The building is a sterile cube of glass and brushed steel tucked away in an anonymous corporate park. It's the kind of place you could drive by 1,000 times and never notice. The job itself is, for the most part, incredibly simple, and it pays ridiculously well. That's the combo that hooks you. I sit in a control room from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. surrounded by a semicircle of monitors. The room is kept cold, the only light coming from the screens, which display a constant hypnotic scroll of data: EEG, EOG, EMG. Brainwaves, eye movements, muscle tension. The vital signs of the 6 to 8 individuals sleeping soundly in their private, hotel-like rooms down the hall. Our subjects are all volunteers, paid handsomely to test a new piece of neurotech. It's a sleek, silver headband that they wear to sleep. The official line is that it uses targeted magnetic pulses and sonic frequencies to help induce and stabilize lucid dream states. The company wants to market it as the ultimate tool for creativity, for therapy, for personal exploration. Imagine being able to consciously navigate your own subconscious. The possibilities are endless. My job is to be the lifeguard for these psychic swimmers. I watch their vitals. I monitor their brainwave patterns for the telltale signature of a lucid state, a specific blend of gamma and alpha wave activity. And most importantly, I watch for signs of distress. A spike in heart rate, rapid shallow breathing, excessive muscle twitching. If that happens, I have a button on my console that administers a mild, fast-acting sedative through their IV, waking them up gently and ending the session. Easy. For the first 2 months, it was the easiest job I'd ever had. I'd spend most of my nights reading, listening to podcasts, or just watching the green lines cascade down the screens like a digital waterfall. It was peaceful. Boring, even. But there was always this one thing. One weirdly specific, unyielding rule in the procedural handbook. During a stable lucid state, we are required to perform a consciousness check-in. We open a one-way comms link to the patient's room, a small speaker next to their bed, designed to be integrated into the dreamscape as a disembodied voice. The protocol is strict, a script we have to follow verbatim. My voice, calm and neutral. This is the monitoring station. We have registered a stable lucid state. Can you hear me? The patient, who is dreaming, will almost always incorporate the voice and respond. Their own voice comes back through a highly sensitive microphone near their head, often whispery and distant. Yes, I can hear you. Excellent. Please remain calm. This is part of the process. Can you describe what you are seeing in your dream? This is the key part. Their answers are usually fascinating. People describe flying over cities made of glass, talking to long-dead relatives, exploring alien worlds. It's a surreal and often beautiful glimpse into the human mind. My job is to just take a few notes and let them continue. But the handbook has a contingency, a single bizarre red flag response. If, in answer to that question, the patient says, "I'm not dreaming. I'm standing above an ocean," the protocol is absolute. I am not to ask any follow-up questions. I am not to engage further. I am to immediately press the red session termination button. This triggers a much stronger chemical sedative, not the gentle one, but one that slams the brakes on their consciousness and pulls them into a deep, dreamless sleep. After that, I am to scrub the audio log of the check-in, delete the specific brainwave data from that lucid period, and mark the session log with a simple, pre-written note. Patient experienced distress-induced paradoxical lucidity. Session terminated per protocol 4.11a. The first time I saw it, I was just browsing old logs on a slow night. A patient from 3 weeks before I started. There it was. The question. The answer. I'm not dreaming. I'm standing above an ocean. Then the log entry. sedated due to distress, followed by the official note. I figured it was a one-off, some weird specific neurological glitch the device could cause. Maybe it triggered a primal fear, a thalassophobia encoded in our DNA. The brain, in its dream state, interprets this specific signal as a real, terrifying void, and the company just wanted to shut it down before it caused any psychological damage. It made a kind of clinical sense. But then I saw it again. A log from a month ago. Then 2 more from the last couple of weeks. Always the same. The question. The exact same answer, word for word. The termination. The scrub data. The canned explanation. I asked my supervisor about it once, a senior tech who'd been here since the project started. I tried to be casual. Hey, I was looking at some old logs, saw a few 4, 11 terminations. That ocean thing is pretty weird, huh? He didn't even look up from his tablet. It's a known system artifact, a recursive feedback loop that can create a specific, undesirable hypnotic state. The protocol is for patient safety. Don't worry about it. Just follow the procedure. His answer was too clean, too rehearsed. It was the kind of answer designed to stop you from asking more questions. So I stopped. I did my job. I watched the green lines, and I hoped I'd never have to personally deal with Protocol 411A until last night. The shift started normally. 6 subjects, all hooked up and sleeping by 11 p.m. The first few hours were quiet. I was halfway through a book when, around 2:15 a.m., the monitor for room 4 lit up. A beautiful, clean, lucid signature. The patient was a man in his late 42nds, a first-timer. The system flagged him as ready for check-in. I took a sip of cold coffee, leaned into my microphone, and cleared my throat. The script felt second nature by now. This is the monitoring station. We have registered a stable lucid state. Can you hear me? A few seconds of silence. Then, a faint, breathy voice trickled through my headset. Yes. Wow. Yes, I can hear you. Excellent. Please remain calm. This is part of the process. Can you describe what you are seeing in your dream? I had my pen ready, my notepad open. I was expecting a description of some fantastical landscape. Instead, the silence stretched. I could hear his soft breathing. His heart rate, steady on the monitor, began to climb just a little. Then his voice came, and it was different, clearer, sharper. Not a dreamy whisper, but a tone of profound, unnerving certainty. I'm not dreaming. I'm standing above an ocean. A block of ice formed in my stomach. My hand went straight for the console, fingers hovering over the red session termination button. This was it. My first 411A. I was about to press it, to end it, scrub the log, and spend the rest of the night trying to forget the chilling clarity in his voice. I pressed the button. A small, high-pitched beep echoed in the control room. On my main monitor, a text box popped up. I'd never seen it before. Error 7. Sedative dispersal unit. Pump malfunction, R4. Manual override required. My blood went cold. Manual override meant calling the on-call nurse, who was asleep in her office at the other end of the building. That would take at least 5 minutes. 5 minutes was an eternity. The handbook had a contingency for this, too, buried deep in the appendices. In the event of a dispersal failure, the monitoring agent must maintain vocal contact with the subject, keeping them calm and oriented until medical staff can intervene. Do not terminate the audio link. I was stuck. I had to keep talking to him. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Okay, I said, my voice shakier than I wanted. Okay, just stay calm. Can you describe this ocean for me? I was off script now, flying blind. His voice came back, filled with a strange, detached wonder. It's endless. There's no sun, no moon, no stars. But it's not dark. There's a soft, gray light coming from nowhere, and everywhere at once. The sky is the same color as the water. I can't tell where one ends and the other begins. Are you in the water? Are you on a boat? I asked, trying to ground the scenario in something tangible. No, I'm just standing. On the surface. The water is perfectly still, like black glass. But I'm not on it. I'm above it. Maybe 10 feet up. Just hanging here, in the quiet. I watched his vitals. His heart rate was elevated but steady. His breathing was slow and regular. According to the data, he wasn't in distress. He was perfectly calm. But the rulebook, the protocol, the senior tech's warning, they all screamed that this was wrong. This was dangerous. Can you see anything else? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Land? Any other people? No. Nothing. It's just the ocean. The gray sky. Me. It goes on forever in every direction. It's the most empty and the most peaceful place I've ever been. He paused. Wait. My knuckles were white where I gripped the edge of my desk. What is it? What do you see? There's something down there, he said. His voice lost its peaceful quality, replaced by a thread of curiosity. Under me. Deep down. How deep? I don't know. Miles, maybe. It's just a shape. A darkness in the black water. It's hard to make out. I was leaning forward, my face inches from the screen, watching the delicate green lines of his EEG. They were fluctuating, a new pattern I didn't recognize emerging. Is it moving? I asked. Yes, he whispered. It's rising. It's coming up towards me. His heart rate began to climb. 80 BPM. 85. 90. Okay. I need you to stay calm, I said, my own voice betraying my panic. It's just a dream. You are in control. I told you, I'm not dreaming, he insisted, his voice tight. It's getting closer. It's big, so big. The shape is wrong. Oh God, it has tentacles. Long, slow, coiling things stretching out from a central mass. It's enormous. It has to be the size of a mountain. His breathing hitched. The EMG monitor showed his muscles were tensing. He was starting to panic. The nurse still wasn't answering my page. What's it doing? I pressed, feeling a morbid, terrifying need to know. It's just coming up, so slowly. The darkness. It's so black. A perfect, light-swallowing black. But, wait a second. Something's changing. Changing how? As it gets closer to the surface, it's getting smaller, or it's contracting. It's pulling itself in. The tentacles are retracting, melting back into the main body. The shape is simplifying. It's not a mountain anymore. It's becoming smoother, more defined. His heart rate steadied. The panic in his voice subsided, replaced again by that unnerving wonder. It's almost here, he breathed. It's right below the surface now. I can see it through the water. It's not a monster anymore. It's a person. I felt a wave of nausea. A person? Yes. It's a man. He's just floating there, right under the surface, looking up at me. He's perfectly still. The water is like a sheet of glass between us. A long pause. My own breathing sounded like a hurricane in my ears. Then he said, He's waving at me. Waving? Yes, a slow wave with one hand, like he's saying hello or goodbye. He fell silent for a moment. I could hear a faint, confused sound from him. That's strange? What is? I asked, my throat dry. What's strange? I know him, the patient said, his voice a nod of confusion and disbelief. I recognize his face. He looks just like the man from room 7 last week. The world stopped. I didn't know what he was talking about. Patients aren't supposed to see each other. They're checked in and out at staggered times to ensure privacy. But I knew exactly who he meant. The last 411A I'd seen in the logs. The one from last week. The patient in room 7. Just then the door to the control room hissed open. The nurse, a stern older woman, stood there, syringe in hand. "My pager was on silent," she grumbled. "What's the problem?" I just pointed at the monitor for room 4, unable to speak. She glanced at his vitals, saw the distress flags, and marched out toward his room without another word. A few minutes later, his brainwave pattern smoothed out, his heart rate dropped, and the monitor showed he was in a deep, sedated sleep. The incident was over, but for me, it had just begun. After the nurse left and the morning tech came in to relieve me, I couldn't go home. I couldn't sleep. The patient's words echoed in my head. "He looks just like the man from room 7. I sat in my car in the pre-dawn gloom of the parking lot, my mind racing. How could he have seen the man from room 7? It was impossible. My hands trembling, I pulled my work laptop from my bag. My credentials were still active. I pulled up the session log for the patient in room 7 from last week. There it was, the check-in, the ocean response, the note. Patient experienced distress-induced paradoxical lucidity. Session terminated per protocol 4.11a. Standard procedure. But then I looked at his discharge notes. Subject experienced a severe psychotic break during stage 4 sleep, transferred for psychiatric evaluation. A psychotic break. That was new. That wasn't in the other logs. A cold dread trickled down my spine. On a hunch, I opened a private browser window and typed his name, a real name from his intake form, into a search engine. The first result was a local news article dated 2 days ago. Police ask for public's help in locating missing man. I felt like I was going to be sick. The next day, I went into work early, determined to talk to the doctor, the head of the research division. He was a tall, severe man with cold eyes and an immaculate lab coat. I found him in his office reviewing data. I laid it all out for him. The system failure, the conversation with the patient from room 4, his description of the rising creature, the face he saw, the fact that the patient from room 7 was now a missing person. The doctor listened patiently, his hands steepled on his desk. He didn't interrupt me once. When I finished, the silence in the room was heavy and suffocating. "You understand," he said finally, his voice flat and devoid of emotion, "that our subjects are under extreme neurological stimulation. The device pushes the boundaries of perception. Hallucinations, both waking and sleeping, are a known, if rare, side effect. The patient in room 7 had a pre-existing vulnerability we missed in screening. His psychotic break was unfortunate, but statistically predictable. His subsequent disappearance is a matter for the police, not for us." "But what about the other patient?" I insisted. "The one from last night. How could he have described the man from room 7's face? He never saw him." "Coincidence," the doctor said, his tone dismissive. "The human brain is a pattern recognition machine. He saw a face in his dream. His subconscious assigned a vague, fleeting memory to it. You are connecting unrelated events, a classic case of confirmation bias. The failure of the sedative pump is a maintenance issue. I'll have it looked at. Thank you for your report. You may go." He turned back to his monitor. I was dismissed, but I couldn't let it go. He was lying, or if he wasn't lying, he was willfully blind. Coincidence? No. The clarity in the patient's voice, the specific detail, it wasn't a coincidence. That night on my shift, I did something I could be fired or even prosecuted for. I used the senior tech's password, which I'd seen him type in 100 times, to access the system's deep-level diagnostic and calibration logs. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. A program file? A weird subroutine? It took me hours digging through endless folders of code and encrypted data. And then I found it. A hidden subdirectory in the initial calibration sequence, the one that runs for 5 minutes while the patient is first falling asleep. The folder was labeled FF Integration. Inside was a single, innocuous-looking subroutine. Its description read, "Injects familiarization marker to ease transition into lucid state. Presents a calming, friendly face, subliminally to reduce psychic tension." My blood ran cold. There was a log file attached to the subroutine. A list of image files, dates, and patient ID numbers. I clicked on the log entry for the patient from last night, the man in room 4. The calibration sequence had run at 10:48 p.m. And at 10:49 p.m., it had flashed a single image file for 150 milliseconds, just below the threshold of conscious perception. The image file was a low-resolution capture. The system automatically takes a still from the in-room camera at the moment of peak lucidity for data tagging purposes. The image file injected into the brain of the man in room 4 was the data tagging still from the patient in room 7. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely use the mouse. I scrolled up the log. The patient from room 7 the week before. His calibration sequence had included a subliminal image of the ocean patient before him, and the one before him, an image of the one before that. It was a chain. Each new subject saw a flash of the last person who had been in the same state before. Like they were connected somehow, I had to know more. I pulled up the file for the missing man from room 7 again. His home address was listed on the intake form. It was in a sprawling, anonymous apartment complex on the other side of town. My shift ended at 6. I didn't go home. I drove straight there. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky in 6 shades of orange and purple. His apartment was on the 3rd floor. I picked the lock with a credit card, a skill I'd picked up in a misspent youth. The air inside was still and stale. The place was neat, almost sterile. It looked like no one had lived there for years, not days. A couch, a coffee table, a television, nothing personal, no photos, no clutter. I searched the whole apartment. Nothing. I was about to give up when I checked the nightstand next to the bed. Under a book there was a small black moleskin journal. I opened it. Most of it was mundane. Work notes, grocery lists. But the entries for the last week were different. The handwriting started to get messy, frantic. He wrote about the sleep study, how excited he was. Then he wrote about his first session. The dream was incredible. I flew. I actually flew. But then there was this check-in. A voice. It asked me what I was seeing. The next entry was a few days later, the night before his final session. Can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see it. The gray light, the black glass water. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of nothing. I'm scheduled for another session tomorrow night. They said it would help. I told them about the dream, and they just smiled and made a note. Then, the last entry. It looked like it had been scrawled in the middle of the night, right before he disappeared. The pen had dug into the paper. They don't understand. I went back tonight. I had to. I was standing there again above the ocean. It was waiting for me. It came up from the deep, just like before, so huge and horrible. And then it became small. It became him, the face from the picture they showed me, the man from before. He was there, under the water. He looked so scared. He waved at me. I touched the waters with my hand for the first time. And then, only then, I saw glimpses of his mind. Words he wants to tell me. Images he wants me to see, and I finally understood. I read the final lines, and the air in my lungs turned to ice. My vision swam. He's not waving goodbye. He needs my help. He's trapped in there, just like the one before him. All asked for help. All tried to break through the boundaries of dream. And that thing. The thing they put us in. Make us dream. I think it feed our consciousness to something. One by one. And that poor man, he's being digested by that emptiness. And he's begging me to help him before he's gone forever. I have to go back. I have to save him. As I stood there in the dead man's silent apartment reading his last, insane, terrifying words, my own phone buzzed in my pocket. The sound was so loud in the quiet room it made me jump. I pulled it out, my thumb shaking as I unlocked the screen. It was a calendar alert. An automatic notification from the corporate scheduling system. It read, Mandatory Employee Device Trial Session. Subject, my name. Tomorrow, 10 p.m.